Well, opening things up here in the combat rounds of the, what is this, the 8th turn, 1525. Spaniards just trying to handle things. They threw their Habsburgs down here. Didn't win a victory, but they didn't lose either. And then they used the Persians to attack the Turks and lost. You know, that technology difference is really a problem. And Spain should not be doing this. They're hammering Turkey, trying to defeat them, but the reality is they're just losing victory points on all these battles they're winning. Well, the Turks came back, going second. Just marched in, they defeated the Persian army. Again, it's down to 2 detachments now, and they're laying siege to Mosul. They may actually be able to get a positive peace. On to others. Portugal in particular has some interesting stuff going on. And the round finishes up with the French moving into Artois, laying siege to it, and the Turks being attacked by the Poles. No winner there. To tell you the truth, the Turks took more losses, which is weird because so much terrain against the Poles with the river crossing and everything. Anyway, that puts us into the second round. By the way, you'll notice the Persian Shah has been knocked off the map for several turns. That could have been another victory condition moving into place. It isn't. But at least it keeps them out of having a leader. They're probably going to try to avoid combat now, which maybe they should have been doing all along. Okay, that's the end of round 2, and it is continuing. What do we see? Well, Spain had lost Pizarro last round. Now they're shifting things around to get Cordoba. He's not going to be able to take the Incas out probably easily, but he can start moving around and doing some exploration down here in the South American areas and set up so that the Incas are an easier job for someone, although I don't know who can do it. Cortes certainly can't because he's been made viceroy. And what else do we have? Portuguese shipped some troops over into Ethiopia from down here in Tanganyika. No real battles going on there. Over here, Spanish still trying to deal with their revolts. Habsburgs made another attack against the French. They did not. There was no victor again. Turks held out against the Poles here, continuing their siege on the Persians. Not much else happened. Fairly quick round. You know, it's kind of funny. I mean, the first round of every action. Oh, the French opened up another siege here. The first round in every turn usually is pretty intense, but then they kind of calm down. Most of the players don't have a lot they want to do. A lot of times you'll launch, if you're going to spend a major campaign, you spend it on that first round. But you see, like, I mean, the Turks didn't move. They're just sieging. They moved a leader. A lot of the players are more or less set up just moving one piece into play. The first round, often countries like Spain or Turkey who can't build troops everywhere in their country have to kind of reposition stuff. Likewise, miners who got reinforcements or whatever. You got to reinforce your forces and everything and get them into the places you want them. But after all that's done, it's kind of, I'm going to move a stack, you know, that's it. And even with an intense turn like this where there are a lot of wars going on, there's not all that much to happen in one round. Okay, end of 3 rounds. A lot going on here, more exploration. Cortes positioning himself to set up Mexico City. Portuguese, though, defeated Aden completely and are sieging the city itself. Now, if they get that, they more or less win a complete victory here, so they can just take that colony from them. Then they have to move on to Oman. Over here, the big event between France and Spain. Well, the Spanish not getting any more traction, really. Although they got rid of the revolt, they're still sieging the city down here in Sierra Nevada. But Artois has fallen. That puts Spain in a lot of trouble. They're going to have to surrender, and it may be a fairly expensive surrender. They may be losing a couple of provinces or something. Turks continuing onward. The Poles didn't attack this time. A little bit of anti-piracy or privateering action by the Venetians. That's about it. Another round with very little movement. Do have some leaders to reposition. The Turks will place their Shah where they can. Sakoli comes back and he'll join command of his main force. The Poles continued attacking to no effect. Habsburgs have taken a siege position on Napoli, and the French have kind of pulled out of Artois, put themselves in kind of a mid-ground here, nothing increasing here. The siege of Granada has succeeded, and the Spanish can keep pushing on that way. Again, not a lot happened, but the turn continues. Now the Portuguese defeated Oman, who came in to try to relieve that siege. Spaniards positioning themselves to colonize for next turn. And another round down. This time, well, Spanish cleared up Sierra Nevada and continued moving on, dealing with this. Got rid of the unrest here. Got the siege going on from the Habsburgs here of Naples. They also laid siege to Artois with some more Habsburgs, but the French marched up, defeated them. Now they don't have enough troops to put that under siege. Portugal succeeded in capturing, what is this, Aden? And Turkey took Mosul. We're kind of at the point where people don't want to try to move into new territories, though. So, for example, the Turks have a low odds if they march into, say, Armenia. They might be able to take Georgia. It's got less penalties against it. Armenia's a prize, though, with that gold in it, if they can add that to their territory, or Kars with its high value. Alternatively, we have, let's see, where's Persia's capital? It's back here, Tehran. So that's the one thing they can't take. Similarly, the Portuguese, although Almeida's a very good besieger, he has a -3, which really means +3 on all siege rolls and stuff like that. But, you know, the French, they're already losing a siege here. Of course, if they set up a siege and they have failed because they haven't gotten a siege plus yet on it, it's not that terrible. They've still got a lot of good odds. But you're definitely seeing, for example, the Poles not pushing into Turkey. I don't want to make things easier on the Turks. Make them, you know, have to try to surrender, or at least not get a victory off of it because of a failed siege or yet another failed battle, whatever. Just feelings like that where there's not much happening. The Chevaliers finally made it out, and the Turks are having trouble getting rid of them. Likewise, of course, the Algerians, the Spaniards have been having a hard time. But we keep going. It's a long round. Slipping into the 7th round, the Portuguese have moved in to Oman now and laid siege to it. They destroyed the army there. This was actually a little riskier. They didn't break it with the artillery. Albuquerque, because he's blockading it, can come in and use his conquistador effect. Yeah, I'm making up rules there. But, you know, I'm almost always trying to favor the big powers wherever I can because it's painful, like the player powers. Not in opposition to one another, but in opposition to the minors or whatever, because there's so much stacked against them. Spanish cleared things up at Murcia. Siege still not... They're trying to regain Napoli here. Moved these forces by sea up, and those are now being countered by the French here. The Turks set up a siege in Georgia. So they have a couple of leaders with siege bonuses, so it seems worthwhile for them to do that. French still not really getting anywhere here. They got a breach, but they chose not to go in. Lucky for them that they didn't, because you probably aren't going to succeed. They're not a big army. You need a big army to blast your way in until firepower comes into more effect, and then you can usually get rid of it. But the fortifications are hard to take down otherwise. But we ended up passing into another turn, or another round. So the turn just keeps going. Well, after 7 rounds, we finally finished the turn. And it reminded me of something I haven't been playing with. When you're running a minor, not one that you half control like the Habsburgs, you know, who are involved in a war with you, you get a victory point for every 2 rounds that they're in the game. I'll put that in from now on, but there's no way I can remember who's done what with miners that they're not, you know, engaged in supporting a war with or being supported by. What happened? Not good stuff. Basically nothing changed, which is bad for the people who took actions. The Spaniards went into Grenoble and the French chased them out of there. Oh, one big thing changed. Naples fell. Forgot to put the markers back on, but yeah, that's bad for France. They won this big victory. There's no question. Spain's gonna have to surrender, but they're not gonna give up Naples, and that means, well, they might lose Artois, which is a bad thing for them to lose. They might lose Rousseau, which isn't so horrible, but they are not losing Naples, and Naples is what France wanted. It may not be important after this period, but they had a pick for it for this period. And now they have to maybe rearrange what they're doing. Likewise, Portuguese didn't manage to get above minus, so their siege failed. Number of little things like that that are going to have to be taken care of. Well, I've been kind of misplaying things, at least in my mind. I don't think it's actually come to play here. No big shock. But as I read over the peace differential, there's no halving or doubling here. All that there is, it seems to be, is the difference in stability plus the war difference, and the war difference itself can't be more than a 4-point differential, which is to say two countries like Spain and France who are down, you know, at the bottom, or two countries that are doing well aren't going to have much difference. In this case, Spain is forced to sue for peace. They're going to have to give a peace of level 2. That gives 8 victory points. That's where the doubling is, to the French, and they lose 8. In addition, France gets to pick, I believe, if they wish, 2 provinces on a peace of level 4. No, 3 provinces. Now, unfortunately, the French only have taken 2 because they did no longer hold Naples. So that 3rd one, Spain doesn't want to give them one, but they have to give them $100 in the next turn, basically out of their income. If they can't afford that, they have to pay everything they can and go bankrupt. Well, that's going to be kind of a painful situation for the Spanish here. And they're going to lose Artois and Rousseau, which, you know, is definitely a good end for the French here. The peace is formed, however. Habsburgs are out of the war as well. I'll come back if there's anything further to do at the end of the turn. I think this is about it, though. Well, we've settled to the end of the turn. The French got a dividend in terms of stability, as did Portugal, going up due to ending their wars. The Portuguese, of course, suffered more due to an ongoing war over there with Oman. And they now have a new trading post that's pulling one spice out. They replaced the colony that was there. And yes, I'm not sure that that's how it's supposed to be handled, but it's the only rational way I can see it. Okay, but the French one got boned because they've been losing income. So they got the reverse of the prosperity, which reduced their stability back down to -3. In terms of victory points, I think I've gotten everybody off the map who doesn't belong, but sometimes I forget some things. Big swing down for Spain. They're down to 18 points. France goes back up to 11, putting them in the same range. Portugal just gets richer and richer at 329. We see some of the others. Turkey at 88, England at 56, Venice at 139. You know, now things are hopefully going to get a little calmer for a little while. Now the two big powers are no longer fighting a land war. Of course, someone else could try to jump in and take advantage of the situation. I don't know how likely that is. England is only really interested in attacking France in that first period. Now they just kind of want to hold Calais, I think. Venice probably in the Risto events has no real interest in conquering Italy. They just want allies there, and they're doing pretty well on that, as we can see. So you got to feel sorry for Turkey, though. They were unable to end their war They didn't get the province off Persia. They didn't get. They tried to go for a white peace with the Poles. They didn't get that. They're going to be facing this again. They're generating victory points, but that just doesn't feel too impressive when your country's kind of languishing and you know you've got these big goals. The Mamluks have to get out of the way. Hungary has to get out of the way. The Knights. And you just can't do it. And, you know, your economy's shot. Next turn, they're going to have to make rolls for peace because they're in the constrained, assuming they can't get out of that -3, which is pretty likely. So, you know, they could end up having to offer at least an even chance of peace. That's the way I've ruled that. And that means they might not be able to gain much from Persia. Of course, they just want out of these wars, but whatever. All right, onward. And this one's going up.